Hey, this is Mark Henry back again to give you information on the occult and paranormal to maybe even improve your life. So I'm here today to talk about a book and a set of techniques that you might be able to use next time you go gambling, or maybe even use it just to improve your life. So let me get started. Okay, so the book I want to talk about is called Inner Vegas. Okay, so it's Inner Vegas, Creating Miracles, Abundance, and Health. So, Inner Vegas, it documents the journey of Mr. Joseph Gallenberger, PhD. Mr. Gallenberger is a clinical psychologist who, after 30 years of practicing psychotherapy, had an unfortunate thing happen to him and his family. His brother died. His brother had a kind of a series of events, kind of unfortunate set of events where he lost his job, lost his family. His basic life came crumbling down, and he committed suicide. Now, this deeply hurt Mr. Gallenberger, and it got him thinking and asking questions because the issues with his brother had a lot to do with abundance and prosperity. Now, prior to this, Mr. Gallenberger had been doing some metaphysical things with the Monroe Institute. In case you don't know what the Monroe Institute is, it was founded by Robert Monroe, kind of a pioneer in the areas of out-of-body experience, also called astral projection. You can still find Monroe's books in case you're interested. It's pretty interesting reading. He documents a lot of the realms he went to and how one can potentially leave their body. In any case, Mr. Gallenberger got to thinking about his brother and the course of the life of his brother, and maybe some things that went wrong. So he started to think about abundance and prosperity. And he also had an interest in PK, psychokinesis, the ability to influence matter with the mind. So what he decided to do was, and this is very brave, by the way, he decided to embark on an open-ended project to go to Las Vegas and use some meditation techniques, affirmations, and various other things in order to gamble, to successfully gamble the game of craps. Now, he did this once a month for 5 years, and he carefully documented his losses and his successes like a good psychological researcher. And after 5 years, he got a degree of success, so he decided to train some students. And now, still to this day, once a year, he brings his students over, and they have a private crap table that they play over a weekend using some of his techniques. Now, what does he actually do to win at craps? Well, to go back a little bit with talking about PK, is that PK has been studied since the 40s by Duke University, J.B. Rhine, who also studied ESP and telepathy and all these types of things. So the act of throwing dice and trying to influence them has been around since the 40s, and researchers have been studying this for a long time, for decades, almost 100 years. So this isn't anything new. However, what is new is what he was trying to do. You still don't hear many people doing this. So what Mr. Gallenberger says, and then you can actually do this if you choose to increase your chance of success at gambling, is to use these techniques. So what he said is that in order to successfully do mind over matter in this way, throwing the dice and getting the projected number, you have to get into a type of spiritual state. So you can't be in a negative state of mind, so you want to stay away from anxiety, sadness, anger, those types of things, the lower type of emotions, for lack of a better term. So you're going to try to get into some spiritual states. So think of happiness, think of joy, think of connection, and playfulness. Also, you have to approach it with the right attitude. For him, this wasn't about gambling. This was about exploring human potential and what can be done with the mind and the emotions. So that's number one. Get into the spiritual state. Also, as part of that, you want to be grounded in reality, the physical reality. So you're going to want to be here and now, and not off in a spiritual state thinking of heaven or philosophizing about various things. You want to be embodied. You want to be able to pay attention to what's going on, to be fully focused. They talk about in a book that I read called Flow. What that means is that when people get completely engaged in an activity, being right there, present, that's where you want to be. Second is that you want to have a good intention and a clearly well-defined intention. For the students and for Gallenberger, it was, okay, I want to roll a 7. So that's very clear. So with the spiritual state, you project that and you roll the dice. Number 3, once you decide what you want to do, you have the intention, you roll it, let it go instantly. Don't become attached to the outcome. Buddhism talks about this. They said that desire is the cause of suffering, that attachment is one of the things that fuels this suffering. So, letting it go. And by letting it go, what you're actually doing is also you are letting go of the ego. See, he says in the book, Enter Vegas, that the ego will cause or can cause the opposite, a PK to run in the opposite direction. So if they want PK to run in their direction to get what they want in this instance, that it can actually go in the other direction and go to the complete opposite. And I mentioned Rhind before in the ESP experiments in the 40s. They found this too, is that if someone, let's say, had the ability for ESP and they used those cards, those Zener cards, 5 cards, which were like the wavy lines and all those different things to be able to try to predict what will come next, they found that there is a level of what you'd expect from chance. And after, let's say, several hundred iterations, there is what one would expect to have happened because of statistics. But if somebody after 500 flips of the cards got 0 right, that is way, way below chance. That's as much as an anomaly as if somebody got every single one right. So that's how these forces can work in opposite directions. So what he said was that when you get into those negative states, that you can actually, or get into the ego, you can actually push the PK and you can lose every cent you have in your pocket. So how does one get into their ego? Well, one, he said that if you doing this out of greed, I'm going to make so much money because I want to buy a boat or a new vehicle or do all these types of things, you're cultivating such raw, primal energy that it's just going to screw everything up, and it actually can turn out worse for you. Second is not greed, but neediness. So if you go there to the casino because you need to pay your bills and you have 0 money in your account, that is equally the wrong reason, because you're going to get wrapped up in the ego and the whole idea of scarcity, and it's just going to, if you have nothing and you bring $25, you're probably going to lose that $25, according to Gallenberger. And I actually find that to be the case. I've found that in roulette, when I play, even though I don't play craps, is that the more I get worked up about it, the more upset I get about losses, the more likely I am to lose. There is something to talk about being detached and having fun and being playful and not taking it too seriously. So I agree with him on that. Also, I agree with him in the fact that I have a similar procedure, even though I didn't come across the book until after I'd already started doing some of these. So I do kind of a healing on myself, which he mentioned also as a side note, that if you have a hard time raising energy and getting into those spiritual states, then it could be the fact that you have a block and that you need some type of healing. And so one would have to work on that to try to raise your energy level if there's some type of blockage. But anyway, so what I do in my roulette work is I will do some healing work on myself. I will do some chakra work before I go into the casino. I will set an intention. I'll do affirmations. And when I go there and I put my chips down, I'll set the intention, I'll be very relaxed and I won't worry. I will think about what it might be, what might be the right number, what might be the right color, and then I'll let it go. And it works. I generally score way above chance, and I bring home more money than I bring. So it tends to work for me. I'm still working on it. It's an open-ended project. But in any case, enough about me. This is about Mr. Gallenberger because I find him absolutely fascinating. There aren't a lot of books that talk about this sort of thing. And that's about it. One thing I want to mention again is that this is not about gambling and this is not about money. This is about, okay, can I cultivate spiritual states? Can I do some metaphysical techniques to influence reality? It's one thing to pray, it's another thing to do meditation, but can you bring forth the spiritual onto the material plane? I think that's fascinating. In any case, that is it. Please subscribe and like, and I hope to see you soon in future videos.